2021. Welcome back. We survived Groundhog's Day. So here we go. We have a relatively full agenda. We thank you, Terry Jo, for putting that together for us here. We had our minutes of the 13th of January, 2021. Are there any edits, revisions, corrections, anything to be noted? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Linda is motioned, a second. Calling for a second. I can see John's lips moving, but John, you.
I second it.
Okay. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays?
I have to abstain. I wasn't there. Wasn't at
Okay,
the
we,
meeting.
hi, then we have Shauna as an abstention. All right, we move forward here. We have the next thing on our component here is the appraisal subcommittee ASC report. Anything to be put forth in that arena?
No, I don't have anything for that, so we can just move on to the next.
All right, thank you. All right, moving forward with our agenda, we have on new business, Jonathan Kloss, RCG applicant, log approval in sample selection. I have 3 samples that I would like to be put forth, and anyone else who would like to add, feel free. Linda, when you're ready, I'm going to want the 87 Grandview Avenue in Waterbury, Connecticut. The 573 Litchfield Road in Watertown, Connecticut. In the 170 Grandview Avenue in Waterbury, Connecticut.
So 87 and the 170, both in Grandview and Waterbury?
Yes,
Okay.
and 573 Litchfield Road in Watertown. I don't know what anybody else would like to add, but feel free to, please.
I just want to see one with a cost approach in it.
Okay.
If they can pick one with a cost approach, and that'd be fine.
Okay. Are there any issues with the log?
Not that I saw.
Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept the log?
I make a motion to accept the log.
So moved.
And a second by Linda. Comments?
The
So
only
be-
comment that I have is I would just, for the record, like to have the person and their business address established so that our record is consistent and,
They're not here, Vic.
okay. Well, then I want that to be stated as well. Either way.
Okay,
Thank you.
so duly noted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, then we need to take a vote though on Mr. Kloss's log approval. Ayes,
Aye.
nays, abstentions. Okay, then you will, Linda, pick out a cost report or a report with the cost approach in it as per John Galvin's thoughts, and therefore we will be looking whenever these 4 reports get to us. And if he's got a special one he wants us to see, he's real proud of, have him send that as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is Mr. Frey, Stephen Frey Jr., a waiver to reinstate his RSP due to military service. We all were provided a letter from Mr. Frey dated the 13th of January, 2021, addressed to Linda. And we can see as he has put forth his points here. I have to ask staff and Vicky on when we have the military exceptions, or are they with the appraisal subcommittee? I remember seeing something, we haven't dealt with this in a number of years. So I want to be consistent. Is there any issues for us in this consideration?
No, I did reach out to Jenny and talk to her about it because I wanted to make sure before we gave him any guidance what they were, I didn't want them to come in and say, sorry, we can't accept it and have them start over. The main issue is we allow someone to reinstate after 2 years. It's been 4. So the problem is he doesn't want to have to retake principles, procedures, USPAP, though. The USPAP is 5 years old, so he's going to need to retake it anyways, most likely. But the other 2, and they are just over, excuse me, the 5-year cutoff for the AQB requirement. But if he reinstates the license and pays, and we can waive the fee because it's military if you so choose, and reinstates the existing license and just goes forward with that, then he won't need to retake the courses.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners or thoughts?
Well, I do think he would have to definitely take USPAP. I mean,
Right, he'll have to take it before he upgrades because it'll be too long, so. And the, we allow 2 years for military for a waiver of the fee. So is per statute, and our statute says 2 years to reinstate a license, but they are entitled to a hearing, so, you have some leeway as far as, allowing it due to the circumstances of the military.
And there will be no issues from your conversations with our folks at the subcommittee.
No, not at all, because
Okay,
it's a
can we-
continuation of the existing license. If he had a
Okay.
new license number, if he just reapplied, then he would need to retake the courses.
Can we just have him established since he is here, this name, address, and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, he is here. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Hi,
thank you.
hi, Mr. Frey.
Ray and Frey Jr., so.
Both of us.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm so sorry. I was reading your document, so that's what I was going through. What time frame, Mr. Frey Jr., that were you in the service?
I enlisted on January 29, 2017, and my end of service date was January 29, 2021. So for those 4 years, I was enlisted in the Navy.
Okay, so you've just completed your tour, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any folks, any questions for Mr. Frey? Can I hear a motion one way or the other to accept or grant?
I'm gonna, how do we word this? I make a motion that we approve his request. Linda, help me out with this.
You would want to approve his request to reinstate his existing license, waiving the fees due to his military service.
I make a motion that we extend his existing license, waiving the fees. Blah, blah, blah.
I'll second it.
And we have a second with a blah, blah, blah. Okay. that was- Okay, all right then. Comments,
Okay, now,
thoughts, questions?
Before, I do have one other thing.
That's your-
This is 4 years. Steve, can you tell me when you got your first license? I don't have it written down.
I believe it was in 2015 was
Okay.
my first license, and then renewed it in 2016, and then 2017 I did not renew it.
Okay. All right, so you've got about 2 years of experience of work behind you.
Of license work, yes.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna be approaching the 6 years here.
Of
So
4 years.
if you guys wanna make a motion that you will extend it beyond this April, we can do it so he won't need to come back in April to ask for an extension of the 6 years.
Okay, can I amend my,
Well,
Let
when we
me
make
jump
those
in.
two
Let me
motions.
Let me jump in. Why don't we pass this one, then make a second motion?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's take care of this motion, then we'll make a second one on that issue. Any other comments on the motion on the table? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Ayes,
I,
Aye.
nays, abstention. So this has been granted. Okay, now, go ahead, Linda. Here's my question. He's allowed 6 years.
Mhm,
He had 2 years. He stopped for military service. That would mean his clock would stop. Correct me if I'm wrong, and then pick up again with this, correct? So then he's got another 4 years.
right. We just have to make sure we note that the clock has been stopped, so, and that you guys are okay with that.
Okay.
I just need to put it in the notes, so.
Do we need a motion for that?
I think we do.
Yeah, it's always better to do it that way.
Yeah, I'd
Fair
rather
enough.
have a motion just so there's no,
So I
Very
make, a-
good.
I make a motion that we extend Mr. Frey's time length 4 years in correlation with his time served. Well, time served. Those of us who were in the Navy look at it as time served.
Yeah.
Can I
All
get
right,
a,
I'll second that.
okay,
I'll second that
Shauna.
one too.
All right, Shauna is a second. Comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. Ayes,
Aye.
nays, abstention, it passes. Mr. Frey, both of you, you're off and running.
Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, and you're more welcome to be and listen to us the balance of the meeting, or you could say enough is enough. But have a good day and don't throw your back out shoveling, okay?
Thank you.
all right. I will send you an email of exactly what you need to do to reinstate it.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Good luck.
Okay. Next on here is old business, Joseph Rosengard. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Mr. Rosengard?
Yes.
Very good. Well,
Good, good. You can leave the meeting.
and I can see that your supervisor hasn't cleaned up his office yet in all these years, even a new location. So, that now that you have sent us over your question or your samples and so forth. Let me, first of all, I have to set everything straight. Everyone knows what we have.
We just lost you, Jerry.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. Sorry.
Did I, can you see me?
I can
You
see
hear me?
you.
Your
The
your
audio.
voice got muffled.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We have John, Shauna, Linda, correct? Other commissioners here?
Yes.
Okay. So there will not be a tie. I can only vote if there's a tie, being chairman. And I also am going to, I'll maybe ask some questions, but will exclude myself because we won't have to worry about that, as Mr. Mulvaney and I worked together for a number of years here, and I don't want any perceived conflicts of interest and so forth. I want the record to please note that, okay? All our joking aside. That doesn't preclude me from asking questions, but so you have sent over your samples. Does anyone have any questions to ask Mr. Rosengard?
I would like to ask him to start by stating his name, spelling his last, indicating his current business address.
Set you up for that, Vicky.
My name is Joseph Rosengard. Last name spelled Rosengard. And my place of work is 201 Tresser Boulevard, Stamford, Connecticut.
And while we're at it, your sponsor, Mr. Mulvaney, can give his name, address, business address as well.
Sure, thanks, Jerry. I'm Stephen Ovani. My last name is spelled O-L-V as in victory, A-N-Y. My place of business is 201 Tresser Boulevard in Stamford, Connecticut. And my place of residence is 49 Echo Drive North in Darien, Connecticut. Did you ask for something else, Vicky? I missed if you wanted me to say something addition for the record.
No, just to establish the business address and the relationship between the parties. That was it. So thank you.
So I've been Joe's supervisor here at CBRE since August of 2016.
Okay.
Prior to that, Joe was in the real estate program at University of Wisconsin in, where's Wisconsin? It's in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay, very good.
And then Joe was also an intern at CBRE for the summer of 2015 prior to getting a full-time position in 2016.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your
Welcome.
assistance. Yeah.
Anytime.
John, I have a couple questions. Do you want to start it though?
No, why don't you ask your questions first? I do have a couple of questions, but I want to, why don't you go first and then,
This is what I'm gonna, I reviewed your reports and I'm gonna pay most specific attention on this question for the Holly Pond Plaza on East Main Street report, as well as your, I just had it here, your, what's it, the Haverstraw report. Okay, and when I take a look at your report in Holly Pond Plaza, I see that you do not sign the report. And you were given credit in the certification for a significant appraisal assistance. And now when I see the report done on the Audi Hawthorne, and that was back what, in 17, and the Hawthorne report was done in 18, I do see your signature. Can you explain why that was? And the second part on the Holly Pond, what did you do in that report, in the Holly Pond report? What was the scope, or what was your contribution in the significant assistance in the preparation?
Well, as far as why my signature was in the Hawthorne report and not the East Main Street report, I believe at the time I wasn't allowed to put my signature in any Connecticut appraisals because I didn't yet have my Connecticut provisional appraisal license. So it was, I couldn't put my signatures in those reports.
That's gonna be.
Okay.
And as far as significant assistance for 1281 East Main Street, I remember I attended Steve on that inspection. I helped him quite a bit with neighborhood analysis. I remember surveying all the occupancies for all those other, there's a lot of similar office buildings along East Main Street, a little bit closer to our office building. So neighborhood analysis, collecting comp data. I believe, Steve, you might be able to correct me, but I believe 1281 East Main Street was a redo of one that we did a couple of years prior to 2017. So I remember going through, I think I went through the old report and finding things that stayed consistent in terms of improvements. I think they were really renovating quite a bit of the space because West Med was moving in or something. So I remember there was some renovations to keep track of, stuff like that. Steve, I believe, handled most of the income analysis, and I've compiled, I think, the preliminary list of sales comps. At that point, Steve was still, he's helping me out quite a bit. I was still pretty new, so I'm sure we could have tossed all the original ones I found, and we found new ones. But I compiled the original list of sale comps, and yeah, I think that's a decent overview of the assistance I've provided.
And the Audi Hawthorne report over in Hawthorne, New York?
As for, again, similar compiled neighborhood analyses, the original sale comps, I went with Steve on that inspection. Probably the area neighborhood analysis, market analysis, compiling the national auto industry analysis.
At what portion did you really start to be, as I say, crossover into highest best use and then into the valuation that we can say, as this commission looking at your work, that this is a fair representation of your work? it was that later, so I just happened to pick two reports early in the section.
No, I would say on resident, probably, maybe. Well, because I would say for residential properties, I ventured into that a little bit earlier than for the retail and the office building ones. So for, I would say I was doing the highest and best use in the valuation for the appraisal ones by, certainly by the start of 2018.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe, or mid 18.
So I don't hog up the time. I know, John, you had some questions. You may be following that up with, you may have looked at reports later. So sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, my questions pertain to how much work did he do? Because I see a bunch of signatures on here and I'm trying to just, look at the log and figure out what he actually did. Well, my concern in reading these reports is not the reports, not the format or the content of the report or anything like that, but trying to get an understanding that you actually understand enough to go certified in terms of what you did versus what everybody else did. That's my concern. And I don't, from what you're saying, it seems like it wasn't until 2018 where you started to do some property types. And I know your assignments that you guys do have a lot more hours affiliated with them in terms to the typical appraisal, just because of the dollar amounts involved. But that's my concern here. I mean, is there, out of the 4 reports that you submitted, I think there was 4, correct? That's what I got. Is there one particular report where you did most of the work, or if not all the work, and you're?
Yeah, I would say for definitely for Irby, the 2020 report, for the 2019 report, Warren Knowles. I'm trying to think of the other, Charles Street, Terry Lodge, Westport. I would say I did most of them for all the ones that, or maybe not. Steve probably helped me out quite a bit with Hollywood Plaza in 2017, just because that was a medical office building early on. But certainly all the reports I do now, Steve reviews them at the end, but I feel I'm pretty autonomous in a lot of what I do, and I definitely have a good understanding of what I'm doing. And yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at this, the Irby Stanford Phase 1, URBY. I'm not familiar with Stanford, sorry, not too much. And this particular report is signed by 3 of you.
Yes.
Okay, so you did most of the work, is what you're saying, on this particular appraisal?
Yes.
All the work, or, I mean, can you describe that work process to us?
I did the appraisal report. After I do the appraisal report, Steve gives it a review to make sure that it is, that I'm not missing anything obvious. I would say there's no silly mistakes. And he gives it a review. And I would say that typically isn't much of a big process. I think they're usually in pretty good shape by the time I get them to Steve. And then it goes to the MAI, who has to review it as well and sign off on it. But
So you're going through 2 reviews?
yeah.
Okay, company policy?
Yes.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
All right, that's so that, yeah, you have to have an MAI in there, is that why they do that?
Yeah.
Policy? All right.
We have the same thing. I'm trying to pull up that report, the Irby report. Although I'm looking out the window, I can see it,
Okay, so in the certification, it says that you provided services within a 3-year period immediately. So you appraised this property before, or did somebody else appraise it before?
There was an initial appraisal. I think that might have been done by someone else.
Somebody else appraised it before Joe looked at it.
Okay, because it says in the certification that the three of you have provided services as an appraiser regarding the property that is a subject of report within the 3 years immediately, blah, blah, blah. So my question is this report that I'm looking at, you said that you did all the work, but was it an update of somebody else's work?
We also did it as
Did you do
land.
it before? I mean, because how did you work on it if in the 3 years, were you licensed during those 3 years provisional to do that work, or were you just a researcher? That's what I'm trying to get at here. I'm just, you understand, I don't mean to be picky, but Jerry and I are just concerned about, what you actually did. And I'm not questioning, I mean, you went to University of Wisconsin. I have a high regard for that program. You're with a reputable firm and you're surrounded by people who definitely understand real estate appraisal. So I understand all that. It's just that you have to convey that to us.
Yeah.
Chair, can I just interrupt for a minute? He stated the 2017 report, and I apologize, I didn't catch this. I didn't review things thoroughly for his log. He stated he didn't have a Connecticut license yet. Is that what I understood? You weren't licensed in Connecticut yet.
I didn't have my provisional appraisal license. Yes.
Okay, so Jerry, technically we are not supposed to be counting any of that work because he wasn't legally allowed to do work in Connecticut?
When did the license commence?
2018?
Yeah, May 2018.
Okay.
Did you have a license in another state at that time? Were you licensed as a provisional in New York?
There is no provisional New York license.
All right, and you didn't get a temporary license in Connecticut? Okay. I just want to make sure
I
we're
understand.
looking at things correctly, so the feds don't come back and say we can't count that work.
Well, Linda, quickly go through, look at 18, 19, whatever was on the log, because we, as a body, have already approved the log,
No, you haven't, I don't think, did you approve it?
or he wouldn't be here.
Okay,
Or we wouldn't have picked the samples.
okay. So.
Your question then that he might not have enough hours?
Yeah, we got to figure out how many hours he actually has.
Because how many hours do they need now? I know it just changed.
No, they still need 3,000, right? Yeah.
Because isn't it, I think it's on his list, it only says 2,200 or something.
No, I had like,
More than that?
I had
Okay.
well over,
I might be thinking of somebody else's that we looked at this week.
I had well over 3,000.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I mean, to answer your question, part of it, and I don't mean to interrupt, I don't know if I'm supposed to speak or not, but our office here covers Fairfield County and Westchester County. In the state of New York, you don't need a license to be able to sign reports. So Joe may have signed reports in 17 on his log. In the state of Connecticut, you need to be a professional to sign reports. We included.
You need to be a provisional to do any work, period, whether you
Agreed.
sign it or not.
So in that instance, we included this 2017 work as part of the job log.
But that was work done in New York?
Some of the 2017 was, yeah. I mean, one of the ones Jerry mentioned in the Hawthorne, New York, is in New York. It's an Audi dealership.
Linda, what does it say? When was his license granted?
I can pull that exact.
June of 2018. Okay, that doesn't have the log. I got to find the log.
Okay, while Linda is looking at that, John, let's keep moving forward with the review of the actual work, okay? And anybody else? Shauna got questions? Linda have questions? Did you look at any questions in the reviewing of their work product?
No, that was my only question because, I mean, I'm used to reading these reports for this part of my job I get, and I don't have any problem with any, they have a format that he's restricted by. I understand that, but my concern was how much work did he really do? I mean, versus this. And I think at this point, I'd kind of like to get clarification on the log. If we made a mistake, we made a mistake. You get that cleared, and then I'm still a little, I'm not convinced that, by this work product that's submitted, that he's demonstrated that he has enough experience other than what his sponsor's indicating that he does.
I mean,
That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, let me just say from a procedural standpoint, my thought is to first establish that there was proper licensure before the work was done. If you have the ability to answer that in the affirmative, then you can look at the products that were provided or submitted.
All right, he has over 4,400 hours total. So I just need to go back to 2017 if we don't count it. I think he's going to be okay, but I'm not positive yet.
I would say that that's a
Give me
very
a minute.
conservative estimate as well.
Okay, well then let's first establish when the official licensure date, and this, again, that's why we have the supervising attorney on to give us, supervising sponsor on to give us some guidance as to what the dates are. And of course, he should be knowing the requirements for Connecticut. So let's get that worked out, and then we can move on to see if the numbers are there, and they may very well be.
I'm not an attorney, Vicky, that's for sure.
Okay, well,
Trust me. I know you are, I'm not.
No, as a sponsor, I should say. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And I can tell you the Irby, if Jerry looks out his window, he's staring at it, is a very, very complex property. It was for a very demanding client. That's been a piece of, that's known as the hole in the ground for John Farmington, who may not know Stanford at all. It was a hole in the ground for at least 20 years, Jerry, something like that.
Every minute of it.
It finally,
Every minute.
it finally got developed. In terms of disclosure, we as a firm, and I bet you Cushman Wakefield did, have appraised that piece of land numerous times. Right. So in the certification, it says, yes, we've done it in the last 3 years. The answer is yes, we have. Whether it's just a land appraisal or an under construction appraisal or the start construction or halfway through construction, we make sure that, especially for a client like Wells Fargo, that we disclose that we appraised it before.
Okay.
So because it says in the certification, that we appraised it for it, we most definitely did. And Wells Fargo does not care if Stephen Ovani appraised it or somebody else appraised it. It's CBRE's name on it or Cushman Wakefield's name on it. There's no hiding anything. Joe's worked with me since 16. I might have said, look at this land sale. I can assure you that he did not sign any reports in 16 in the state of Connecticut or the state of New York. But, his name, like Jerry mentioned, in Holly Pond Plaza, he did significant assistance. To me, that's the definition of being a supervisor. I brought him on every single tour in the state of New York and the state of Connecticut that I went on. I've been doing this for, I don't know, since 1987 was when I started. And Joe's one of my best, associates that I've had in my 30-year career.
Mr. Rosengard, you say you're doing full assignments now. Do you use Argus? Are you proficient in that arena?
I do use Argus.
Okay. What version are you folks using?
Okay,
Um,
I went back and
Hey,
looked.
hang on, Linda, hang on.
Okay,
Argus Enterprise.
Okay. And that Argus Enterprise is being used for what type of assignments?
Mostly when I work on commercial properties, it doesn't really come into play for apartment deals. So when I'm doing an office building or a shopping center, that's usually when Argus comes into play.
What do you find to be the most cumbersome or challenging portion of using Argus Enterprise?
Just the adjustment from DCF is still a little bit clunky, just kind of figuring out where everything is still. I would say that's the biggest thing.
Everything with the software, you mean, or everything in what you're inputting?
Just where things are. So I guess that'd be maybe more worth the input.
So do you input everything yourself, or I know some of the firms send stuff out to have somebody else input with the leases. Or do you do it yourself?
Usually I'm inputting it myself, and yeah.
Do you have the artist certification or whatever they call it?
Yeah, or a license.
No, I know, not the art. Now they have that certification.
Oh no, I don't have a certain. No, I thought
I
you.
know a lot of some of the colleges I know are letting the kids get out with it. So
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Linda, you were saying, I didn't mean, I wanted to have Mr. Rosengart finish his answer.
no problem. I went back and I looked at 2017 and the 2018 part that he was not yet licensed in Connecticut, and it's less than 1,000 hours. So he still has close to 3,400 hours without counting that. And he needs 3,000. So he's still fine hour-wise.
So we're well over 10% above and beyond the threshold.
Yeah, so we just need to make a note that we're not counting anything prior to his license, and
Fair enough. Okay. So Mr. Rosengart and Mr. Ovani understand why we had to go through this. We get audited, the commission, every 2 years by the appraisal subcommittee. They come in and they go through every file. And that's why we have to make sure, or we don't want them to take your license away 2 years from when they come through. So just understand why it may have sounded like we were going through a minutia here, but we've got.
Barry, we're losing your voice.
Therefore, you understand why we just went through what we went through.
Oh, 100%. It's what you're supposed to do.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, John, you had other questions. I have no more questions. Or Shauna and or Linda.
No, I'm okay.
the only question I have is just on this apartment complex. You're stating that it was. So I'm only asking this question to satisfy my need to know that you understand something about real estate appraisal. So on this apartment complex, you say that it has was partially vacant when you did it, one of the phases. I got it down here. It was 47% occupied. All right. And then in the income approach, how did you figure out absorption? How did you figure out how did you actually go about determining when this thing would be stabilized? What'd you do with market data to solve that problem?
We looked at recently completed comparable properties. Hopefully we got good ones in Stamford, Fairfield County, and looked at how they were leasing up property, their units after completion, and chose a comparable rate that was similar to comparable properties, I'd say.
All right. And how did you estimate taxes on the property?
Also, looking at comparable apartment buildings within Stamford, looking at what they're taxed at a per unit basis, and formulating an estimate from that, or for market tax, or that would be how we would determine if it was market.
And if you didn't know the taxes at all and you didn't have that data, any other way you would have looked at it?
If I didn't have any comparable data?
Yeah.
could I look at the subject assessment and take the tax rate from Stanford?
Yeah.
Okay, I would do that.
All right, I just have, I've had done several litigation assignments where we've had the new construction and no one's actually doing a tax loaded overall rate just to check see if the assessment's equitable. I was just trying to get that out just to see if you understand the appraisal process. I'm fine, Jerry, I'm fine. I have no more questions.
Okay. Shauna, any questions from your side?
I'm good.
Okay, Linda, you have any, I know you've been saying good, but one last shot?
Okay.
Okay. Since there's no more questions here, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the log.
Okay,
Well,
The only
work
thing
stamp-
that I would ask is that the effective date of when the licensure took place would be the effective date that the law would be accepted. I want the record to be very clear about that aspect of this review.
Okay, I can change my motion. What was the date again that we can start from, Linda?
It was June of 2018.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept the log as of June 2018 forward.
okay, do I have a second?
Well, wait a minute.
No,
Uh,
I'm with you, John, because we've already said, but we'll get this on the record here because of the issue of the 17 year.
Then I can't second it because I don't agree with it.
Yeah, Jerry, I thought you said that you already approved the log. That's why we
Yeah,
wouldn't.
we have, but there's been we have to make sure our paperwork is straight. Okay? And so, okay, so.
I'll second the motion.
We got, okay, Shauna on a second. Okay. Questions or concerns?
Well, the question is, didn't we already approve the log in its completeness? So are we actually now, shouldn't we just be,
We'll come back to it, John, but I think where Vicky was coming from, there seems to have been questions of what we approved. And if the audit comes through, they're gonna say, hey, we didn't approve it from, with 17 when he wasn't there. Therefore, we've reset the motion of the log in place as of June of 2018. He's got 3,400 hours or thereabouts. He meets the.
Gary, you're gonna have to move over. We can't hear you. I think you're at
Because
the other.
he will then he meets the criteria. That's why we have this motion on the table.
Hey, also, in January, when you guys picked this, it was, the minutes reflect that the log needs to be corrected with signatures by both of them, so it wasn't actually approved at the last meeting. Because there wasn't, it needed to have the signatures
Okay.
of both people on it.
Fair, all fair questions. So we're all good with that, correct, Linda Robitaille?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table by Linda Sepso, second by Shauna. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, well, ayes,
Aye.
aye,
nays, abstentions. Okay, now we're good there. Now, the log is approved. Now, do I hear a motion for the approval for Mr. Rosengard to move forward, take exams and so forth?
Jerry, I know you're the tiebreaker, but are you okay with this?
I'm fine.
I
I
make,
can't vote, you know?
yeah, I make a motion to accept the samples.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Linda Sepso, second. Comments, concerns? Hearing none. Ayes,
Aye.
Aye.
nays,
Aye.
abstentions. So congratulations, you just went through the hamburger grinder. Okay?
Thank you.
Linda Robitaille will give you the instructions where you take it from here. Okay, I mean, she knows the ins and the outs, and I don't want to be a purveyor of bad information. So Linda, go ahead.
I will, or the department will notify PSI that you are approved to sit for the exam. You can, I would say call them next week, beginning of next week. They are running a little behind with COVID stuff, to schedule or whenever after next week that you feel comfortable to sit for the exam. There's no rush. You know, whenever you're ready to sit for it, you can sit for it. And if you have any issues, let us know with PSI. If you take the exam and if they don't give you your results when you finish, let us know that too, because they're supposed to. The only other question is, because I haven't been in the office in a couple weeks, do we have your official college transcript? Did you mail that in the unopened envelope?
I don't think so. That doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, good.
Okay, I didn't know.
All right, because we need the official college transcript before you can actually sit for the exam.
Okay,
But just remind him that that's an unopened transcript. You get it from the school and you don't open it, you send it on to Linda.
Yeah, it's got to be unopened, so. And I can't remember, I don't have any notes that I have it, so, yeah, so
I don't
you're
remember.
gonna need to get that and send it before we can approve you for the exam,
Okay,
okay? But just, once you request it from the school, just send me an email so I can be on the lookout. Or once you mail it to me, just let me know so I can be on the lookout for it. I
okay,
don't know to go to the office to see if it's there, or Terry Jo can check for me,
got it.
okay?
I mean, being naive, but do people really still use the mail anymore?
Well, we need an official unopened copy per the ASC, so
So
they
it
have to
doesn't-
use it. It's got to be done in the mail.
Wow. I thought it would have gone directly from the school directly to you, but I don't know.
I mean, the school can mail it directly to me too. That's fine, but it's still, that's what the feds require, so,
Wow, I didn't think they used paper. Okay.
yeah, they still do for official transcripts.
Okay, thank you, congratulations, and enjoy the day.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you, Appraisal Commission.
Take care. Okay, legal, CE audit.
Thanks, Sherry.
Good luck.
Hi. The department is still awaiting the final decisions to be written up and sent out. And once we get those, they will be forthcoming. We did check on the status. They are in the works, so to speak.
Okay,
The process is such that they have to be done, by a attorney, a staff attorney, and the
Other
person.
than Vicky.
Yeah, right, right. Well, we know that, but
Vicky's not
by
doing them.
an independent party. So as a result, they will be forthcoming, and we hope to have those by next month.
okay, very
thank you.
good.
Yep.
Thank you. Vicky, you're still on here. We'll provide an update from Attorney Padula on the status of the regs.
Well, I can say that our legal director, Julianne Avalone, is working specifically on the regulations, for the department. There was a newsletter that was published, and that newsletter indicated that the department's regulations regarding appraisal matters had been submitted. So I know that we are up to date on that.
All right, great. Any questions for Vicky, Attorney Bullock, that we have?
I just wanted to say, not to go back, but for that, last particular situation, I'm glad that we had a chance to review, to look at what our records had, and thank you, Linda, for going back to see, that everything had not been complete. But I think that because we are working virtually, it may be helpful for us to have a little bit of a checklist to make sure that we're doing everything for each person consistently. If it, the date of the licensure, that we have the person on the record, that whatever samples we asked for, that they were approved, I think just so that we are all operating, we're not, sort of working off each other in the presence of each other, but because we're working independently from different places, if we could maybe get a checklist together to make sure that in the future, when we review these things, that the things that we want to make sure have been asked and are covered, that we are all, sure that we have done that. That's just my suggestion.
Vicky, I
Yeah,
think that's
because
a
I do
very,
have a checklist, usually on the folder, the actual paper folder of the applicant, which obviously I don't have access to from here, so.
Okay, so maybe that checklist that you use, maybe we can give that checklist to the board members or commission members as well. Just so we know that all those, questions, comments, concerns have been asked, so that the record reflects that. I
Okay.
think, in this instance, Linda realized that, okay, we need to go back and just check things, and in this instance, the applicant, had done more work. That was great. That worked out in his behalf. But otherwise, from the point of time of licensure, that's probably the first question we should ask. When is it that you obtained your license? I don't know that that's something that we've ever asked in the past, because again, it would have been on, Linda's record and we knew. So
Right, I would
want
have
our
pulled it
record-
up from the paper file.
right, we want our record to be as, full and complete as possible, and because we're working in the way that we do. So maybe if we just have that little checklist or whatever, we can make sure that everything is there.
I think that's a very, very fair point, Vicky, you put on. None of us would have thought, almost a year ago was the last time we all sat together in a meeting.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Here,
Yeah.
here we are coming up on 1 year later, and
Yeah.
none of us thought we'd be, under these circumstances still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your point's very well taken.
Yeah.
So.
But I
Yeah.
mean, it was fine. The things were done that needed to be done. But I just think for us, and again, we do know that our review of some sort and some scope will be done this year. So we want
Yep.
to, make sure we're all set with that. Okay. That was it.
Absolutely.
That was just an observation, nothing.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Schools and courses. We have on here 7, if I can count correctly. From AAL 721, 728, 730, 35, 39, 50, and 51. Did we review these? They're all for CE. Where do we stand?
721,
Some of them.
728, and 730 are actually have been approved. They got put on the agenda by me by mistake. Again, we approved them at the last meeting. So those 3 are all set.
Could you go through those numbers again, please? So I can make,
AAL 721, AAL 728, and AAL 730.
okay,
We approved them in December. Actually, we approved them in December. And then AAL 755 has AQB, and I actually have the updated one. So that one is also all set. The other ones I sent to Linda for review.
Linda, do you have a report?
Yep, 735. I will tell you that it's fine, except that it's a commercial course. So if you guys could just glance through it to make sure it's got all it has all the normal steps that you would look for in a course. So that one looked okay. 739 also was okay. Did you get my email, Linda? 750 wouldn't open, so I was not able to.
Yeah, I got it this morning. I did resend it to you. Hopefully, we can table it for the next meeting, and hopefully you'll be able to open it.
Okay. And then what's this one?
751
Oh,
quant
this was the
analysis.
log. This was the log. Pardon? The only 3 I
751.
did was. I don't have 751.
No, that one is all set. It was, it does have an AQB certificate.
Okay, so 751 by the Appraisal Institute quantitative analysis is
Is
we're
good.
okay.
That's
Okay,
okay.
Yeah.
so we're only then looking on this, we're tabling waterfront properties by the Massachusetts Board of Real Estate Appraisers.
Right.
But
And only because, I can look at it sometime today and let you know, but that's the only one. I couldn't get it to open.
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we make a motion for 735 and 739 first on its own merits?
Did 735 the one you wanted us to look at, Linda, or did Jerry, you look at it already?
John, I've looked at this. This is the Marshall and Swift commercial calculator one. It's just being given by the Columbia Institute.
All right, I'm good. All
Others we've done that, how many
Right.
times,
right, I'm good.
Okay. So if we want to make a motion, Linda, for those 2 first, and then we'll do
Okay.
it to table the waterfront properties, or my suggestion is on the waterfront, we can make a motion subject to you. If you think it's fine, then it's subject to, and we can move it forward.
Okay.
Does that fly with everybody else, Shauna? John? Okay,
I'm good.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve AAL 739 and AAL 735.
Okay, a second.
Second,
John, a second. Questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none, vote ayes.
aye.
Nays, abstentions. So we pass those, okay? Then I'll need a separate motion, and I'll make it here, that the course 750 appraising waterfront properties, subject to, will be approved, subject to Linda's review and approval. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Questions or concerns? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays, abstentions. So we've taken care of the coursework.
That's Linda Sepso?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Vicky. Yes, I imply. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Now are comments or concerns on any persons present today? Any matters to come? I have an item to bring everyone up to snuff on here, but I want to make sure I didn't shortchange anybody on time. Is there anything anyone wants to, anything else to come before us? Okay, then let me dive right into it. As we know from time to time over the years, we've had people complain about certain schools and courses and so forth, and we've all heard it, and we've all considered things from, we've suspended some things over time. We have talked to schools, we've addressed, and so on and so forth. Since Labor Day, I seem to be, as the acting chair was receiving more and more calls from people complaining on the Appraisal Institute classes and courses and so forth. From everything, and we would hear that they could do them, you didn't have to take the full time frame, the classes were too tough, or the examinations or the quizzes within the online stuff was too difficult, they couldn't get certificates in a timely manner, and so forth. And it was like, all right, we hear it in the background and we kept moving on. But the drumbeat kept getting a little louder and louder, and it got a little louder in November, more than a little louder. Thanksgiving, people were thankful, it quieted down, it picked up again in December, and then it hit a crescendo, pretty big roar in January. So at that point in time, I said, well, okay, enough is enough here. So I became John Q student. And I went and signed up for 3 classes, i.e. very similar to what you did, Shauna, when you went on a couple of those a couple years ago, classes where they were giving to the Connecticut law. You just showed up and you went to a few things. So I became our guinea pig to go through it and signed up to see what makes sense, what doesn't, and so forth. So I signed up for appraisal of manufactured housing, the HP12C, and I took a virtual class of condos, PUDs, and co-ops, condos, and PUDs. And that was last week, okay? So let me give you a quick update of where things are. First of all, when I have to talk to John on this, when I took the 12C, he kind of laughed. He goes, did you learn anything? And that's good to say that, a little humor here, but since I've been living with this dang thing for 30 plus years, and there were a few things going. Let me say this, and I'm going to wrap, and I don't mean to go a roundabout here. Taking a class, I was in the middle of the manufacturing class, and then it died. They had, and I should say you couldn't access. The appraisal to a career issue, and many schools have had it. I'm going to use my words, a meltdown in the system. They had to go and they fixed it, and it took them a week, 10 days, whatever it may have been. So they did have glitches, and they're still working out the glitches. And certain things that when I was going through, though, there seemed to have been some merit, and certain of the complaints didn't have merit. And certain things that this board and this body has been concerned with, they have rectified how in their system, and I'm pleasantly surprised. So I want to give a quick overview of where we're at. And in part of that, I had a very productive discussion yesterday for 35, 40 minutes with the Appraisal Institute, from head of education, the CEO, I think the president, legal, all other components. And it was a very, very productive meeting and so forth. And it was very frank and honest. And in fact, last night, Sue Serratus, who's I believe, head of their education, gave a very timely outline of addressing things and so forth. Well, let me just go through. First of all, the class questions are real, they're fine. So when we hear those complaints, it's just, I hate to say, blah, blah, blah in the background. Number two, and their test questions or what have you, when you take your quizzes, there's no problem. You know, heaven forbid we learn something, okay? I happened to get through the HP12C class in a shorter amount of time. I called up thinking I'm done. How do I get my print certificates? Simply because people said it took forever to get print certificates. They said, well, Mr. Rasmussen, they were very polite. Said, well, that's all well and good, but you didn't fulfill your full 7 hours. So you've got to go back into the class and do it. And we have all had these concerns for years, and we got to applaud them when they have fixed the system that they've had here, that someone can't get in and out of it in 2.5 hours and get 7 hours of credit. So we give credit there on those two components. There are issues and some things were maybe inadvertently said to some of the students. And let me just say, there was another issue, and this is where the cavalcade began in January, right around Martin Luther King time. Okay, so about a month ago. And that was, there was a synchronized course from, and I don't have the notes in front of me, from January the 11th through the 14th, and then they would pick up another week or so down the road, half-day classes. And somewhere in the middle, right around the 15th, I think is when the system of, the computer system went kapooey on them. And they called back and called the students and said, hey, we can't move it forward. You have two options. Either you get we can give you a cash refund, or, you know, refund your things, or we can sign you up for the next offering of this class, which would be down in August. So then some of the students, that's when the complaints really started rolling in and so forth. Why couldn't they pick it up? And they would, when they took the class, they would have to take the entire class again. You're not allowed to take it from the midpoint. And they said that's because our good friends at the students board said, you know, you couldn't take it here. So thank you to Vicky, thanks to Rose, jumping in contact our folks at the appraisal subcommittee, Jenny, and also contacted and helped out here because I'm looking for my notes here.
Jerry, you're breaking up. We can't hear you.
Back to us here. Oh, hear me now?
It's spotty. It's a bit spotty.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
No.
Barely.
Barely? I'm looking where. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So then we got it back from Ada Denijak saying that was outside the purview of the A2B. So there was a misstatement that was out in the marketplace here. At the end of the day, after a 35 or 40-minute discussion, listen, they had a meltdown of their computer system. My words, not theirs. They've addressed it. They've enhanced it. So therefore, no one can go back and just take HP12C and get in and out in 2.5 hours. They have to take their 7 hours. They get the whole kit and caboodle. They are still working on the issue of the certificates in a timely manner. Okay, so I don't know this morning of my case of where it stands. I didn't go in and had time to go look at it as the test case. So I've taken these three things. Some of the complaints that we were getting were valid. Some of them were not even worth the breath that they were issued with. But and so the question comes up, hey, should these, let me just answer them. Should we suspend classes? No. Should we, should we pause with the appraisals to allowing it? No, we're fine. An issue has occurred. They're working on it. I'm satisfied with it here. I was the guinea pig that just went through. All right, there's no other shortcut other than saying he said, she said, and all that stuff we deal with, is I just dove in and became the guinea pig through it here. It was with Linda's help, thank you, Vicky's help, thank you, that we got through. But now, in fairness to the Appraisal Institute, we're only one of, well, there's 50 states, the District of Columbia, and there may be other jurisdictions, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, whom else, Guam, who else knows we're giving out licenses that they've got to address. Not all are as balanced, how's that for a word, that will look at things as we were. We hold the criteria there. So I am satisfied that they have done it because we've done our diligence and so forth. So if we ever get anything from the appraisal subcommittee when they do our audits, well, we heard these complaints were being made. Well, nothing was ever done formally, one, two, but we took the initiative and so forth. As part of that, I am going to be forwarding to all of you, and I didn't do it this morning because I received it last evening here from Sue Serratos of the Appraisal Institute, their kind of layout, and we just put it in the record. Therefore, no, and this is why I'm very cognizant of it. I one time was a president of the Connecticut chapter. John was as well. Linda was as well. We have always been cognizant that we don't show favoritism to one school versus another. So I don't want to ever hear that. We've done our due diligence and so forth. But so if you hear that out in the marketplace, I wanted to bring you all current where we stood. One thing that has come up through this whole thing is, and I did not know it until Linda and Vicky said it, and I don't know which one said it first, so I don't want to slight one over the other who came up with it here. We have in our regs that were written back in the Stone Ages, in the 94 or 93 or whenever it was, that a school has 30 days in order to give a certificate to any student who has taken their class. Now, back in that day, what's that?
That I will give credit to Linda. She was quick and fast and knew exactly where it was. I think it was 20-517,
Yeah,
but Linda knew exactly where it was. Absolutely.
I had no idea that was. So when we're so in the I call it the video world, instant gratification. I take it, if I don't have it an hour, the end of the world is going on here. Believe it or not, these schools have in our state, up by our state statutes, 30 days. Now that may be something, and when it was done, that's when everything was done by mail and, and so forth. Who knows if we still had email going on, but that was how it was written back then. And so that may be something for us as a body when we do for reg changes or whatever the case may be, to consider to bring us current from 1993 or 4. Linda Robitaille, help me out. I forget what year it was, but to bring us to 2021,
Yeah, I want to say it was 94.
Okay, so if there's a silver lining through this whole thing is, it made us look internally to us, what we do as a commission, and we've done our due diligence, and we found, there's maybe a glitch or a thing that maybe want to be addressed. I would have never, ever guessed that there was that much time frame on that. Just, one of those things that I've lived and learned. So any questions, feel free to fire away.
I don't have any questions, Jerry. The only thing I wanted to say is that when you were talking, there were a couple of times that I wasn't able to hear you. I'm not sure that when you had articulated what the 3 issues were that they were articulated, but that was just me. I didn't hear all of it, but it could have just been my computer as well.
Okay. sorry about that. I can put something down here, of the areas, but I am satisfied that they're, being addressed. Now, if we have another round of things and there's still issues with computer stuff 60 days from now, that's a whole nother issue, or 90 days from now, that's a whole nother issue. But as far as I'm concerned, it was a cordial, businesslike conversation. They understand, they being the appraisal institute, understand, hey, we have an issue, we're trying to correct it, we're in the midst of it. And when you correct something, you find other things that aren't working as well as they were, and they thought were fixed. And, I believe everyone has given their best effort here. But yes, there were some issues that came into play. On top of that, for those students who took that advanced income class for synchronization, I believe they said yesterday that they are offering it again in April. I believe that's, and again, I don't have my notes in front of me, so they are trying to address that unfortunate situation as well. It's a very good question here to put forward. As they got back to Linda, and that was Ada Dedejak, said there is nothing, that the law is kind of moot, in that if they go through there and they did half the class, like 16 or 15 hours, and there is a computer malfunction, which occurred here, the law, or from the AQB's standpoint, it doesn't say that you could pick it up from the point of when the system went down, no fault of the student to complete it. The Appraisal Institute's position was they are answering to 51 or 52 different jurisdictions. They took a conservative viewpoint, and they think that you have to begin from the beginning to the end. My opinion, my sole opinion is, I would think common sense would have come into play and say, well, we would have, considered you could pick it up again where they left off to complete their hours. However, from personal experience, dealing with other states, common sense is not always the way things are done. Hate to put it that way, but that's the reality. Okay, so I'm still wrestling in my mind, to be candid with you, for those students. I would think that if they had the attendance midway through to the end, that they only would have to pick up from hours 16 to 30 or whatever it is. However, again, I say it loud and clear, we have a bunch of knuckleheads out there, excuse me, I shouldn't phrase it that way, but will say, oh, they didn't do it from beginning to end. Their interpretation of the law from, again, from Linda Robitaille's work and so forth, the AQB is silent on that area. It doesn't define, how complete and so forth. So you talk about two perfect storms colliding at the same time, it makes you, it makes you scratch your head. I will also say, though, I would hope that the technology gets worked out, and that the certificates can be out in a more timely manner. And I would suspect, after yesterday's conversation, that was probably something that may have been internally working at the Appraisal Institute to try to rectify that bump in the road. It wouldn't have surprised me, but that's all. I know that was a long-winded thing. It was a very complicated and entity thing, but I wanted to bring everyone current where things go. Feel free to
Yes, sir.
fire away with questions.
The only thing I wanted to say is, in terms of the statute about making a change, the section number that was referenced was 20-5-1210. And, it may be something as simple as, not to exceed 30 days, or if it's done electronically within a period of time, and separate it out between electronic and manual, if you will. The only other thing that I'm saying, and this is not any direction, I'm just making a comment. I know that when I look at like a DVD or something, when you take it out, you put it back in, it has like last memory. It depends maybe if the Institute has the ability to do that. My concern, and I am teaching for the first time an online course, and whoa, I've been teaching for 15 years, and I have to say, there's a lot to this. So I do understand some of the, concerns and glitches, but maybe one of the things is that to take into consideration is to not punish, and I say that, in quotes, not punish the students who, went through, let's just say, the 15 hours. I mean, the fact that there was a glitch, not through any fault of their own, they're like, I did my 15 hours. I did my time, so to speak. I should get credit for that and be able to pick up where I left off. But if it's not possible, it's not possible. I understand that. But I think, the concern should always be your customer that you're serving, if you will. But that's up to them in terms of how they're able to address that issue.
I think it's a very fair point, Vicky. And let me just say this, I did the virtual, and I know there's some of us, myself in the front of that line, we had concerns how things were going to be monitored by the virtual classroom. I had my concerns. Going through it last week, you got to give a tip of the hat to Jackie, who was a hawk, making sure everybody was on it. And once or twice she said, hey, Joe, Sally, Pete, I don't see you. She was kind of keeping an eye on making sure people were there, number one. So a tip of the hat. And, it was the first time I believe they were offering that course. We went an hour and 15 minutes above and beyond, and I'm sure, anytime you pilot something, it makes you scratch your head. But yes, I gutted it out all the way to the end for us here. But, I am a convert to the virtual classroom. Okay, I did have my concerns. I think Sean, you and I have had that similar voice, a time or two, and I was pleasantly surprised. Now, does everybody monitor it like Jackie does? I would like to hope so, but I sure as heck know that she did, and so those concerns that we have expressed as a body, especially in the last 6-7 months because of this new, I don't want to call it normal, the new world that we've lived under, So, let's give the positives where the positives are. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, I looked at that class 750. It's not complete. The only thing that came over is the PowerPoint. So Linda, there's more stuff that needs to be in that. It says 750A, so there should be a B and a C.
Thought that's all you needed, that you were able to open the other part.
No, I couldn't open up anything at all in that class.
Okay, I'll resend it all to you then.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right, anything else to come before us today?
Are we doing anything on the, now I can't remember the name of it. That new way where you can learn to be an appraiser without having a supervisor. The video
The
thing?
para.
Yeah.
The AQB just came out with a new booklet. I got it yesterday. I will forward it all to you as far as their criteria, and there's a big section on what you have to do for that part of it.
Yep.
So I will forward that to you guys, and if you guys want to take a look at it, and we can put it on the agenda if you'd like for either next month or April. And just know, if we do decide to move forward, it'll be once again updating the regulations to accept it. So
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't realize that until I read more about it, that this is, you can use this instead of having a supervisor. That just seems the tradition.
right, I mean, and you guys can, I'll send you the booklet, the new AQB criteria booklet.
Okay.
And it will explain it all, and we can discuss it, because something you guys can do is you can say you'll accept so many hours that way, but you still want a supervisor for X amount of hours, or you guys can decide you don't want to do it at all. That'll be up to you.
Okay. Okay.
Does anybody know if any state has already accepted this?
I don't know. I don't know.
don't. I can check with Jenny to see if she knows.
Wow.
Jerry and John, I have a question for you both. I noticed that when we get the appraisals from anybody with a general, trying to get a general license, they're always, buildings and whatever. And my understanding is that an appraiser who has a general license is required to be able to do both straight residential and the commercial. So is there any way we can get them to, because I've talked to a lot of people who are licensed general and they couldn't do a residential appraisal without having me walk them through it because it's very different from what you do. So I'm just wondering how we're checking that they actually have been able to do, if they even done any.
Well, I think the concern there, Linda, is the answer is, if Jerry and I had to go out and do a house, we could do a house, but it would take us probably 2-3 weeks to get that house done. But we
Right.
could probably get it done. So, I think.
Isn't the requirement for the general that they have to also do residential properties, or can they go through without ever doing a residential property?
They don't ever have to do a residential property.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, by law, they can do them if they feel they are competent. The thing is the competency. If they are competent to do it, they can do it. If they don't feel competent, then they shouldn't do it.
Wow.
Now, Linda, I know where you're coming from because your first stint on the commission, when we went back many years ago, they used to say you had to have a balance
Right.
way back in the day.
Right.
I know where you're coming from because I remember that, but they went and switched that. And
Okay.
that kind of got lost in the wash, probably 24, 23 years ago, thereabouts.
Okay. So I guess my concern is at this point that given the fact that, at least my understanding is you should be able to appraise anything if you've got a general license, to somebody to just decide to do a residential property, do they have that right?
They have the right, but they have to beat the competency portion.
Okay.
And that's what the argument was back, again, I'm going back years, 22, 23, 24
Right.
years ago,
Right.
that they had to do whatever is required to be competent. It's like, I look at hospitals, what I've had to go through to do a hospital,
Okay.
even though someone may be generally certified and you're licensed to do a hospital, do you have the requisite knowledge base, education, whatever that goes with it? That's the argument.
Okay. I was just kind of concerned about that because I guess I was still back on that. You need to be able to do anything. And if you're never doing that, I still have times where I need to go out with one of my appraisers because they're going to do a residential property, but it's a very unique property that they've never experienced anything before. So I'm going out and doing them with them to walk them through the steps so they gain the knowledge. But I don't think that's typical for the market, so
No. Sadly not.
anyway, okay,
Um,
that's good.
All right, any other things to come before us? Okay, thank you. We meet next month and we will now have done one full year when we
Full
do
year.
that next year virtually. So
I will tell you, I don't miss the drive.
not today, anyway.
No, definitely not today. I would have been online definitely today, whether we were going to Hartford or not.
Can I
Yeah.
get a motion to adjourn?
I make a
I'll make
motion
a
to adjourn.
motion.
I second it.
John B. and then Linda, you're the second.
Yep.
Ayes,
Aye.
Aye.
nays. Thank you, everyone. Be well. Shauna, good to see you again. This ain't the Dominican Republic with the weather. I know that.
I know, I just got back from 2 weeks and I go back next month.
Good